Gowri Shenbagaraman is here for us on our specific leadership episode, which is Leaders Connect, on the specific particular topic, transformational leadership. So we welcome Mr. Gowri sir.
Thank you, Prakash, and thanks the mass leadership community.
And so members, on this specific topic, transformational leadership. So let me set a context before we go in, and then is where I would invite Mr. David and then Mr. Gowri also to go ahead and discuss about these aspects. So transformational leadership, yes, we all are leaders here, but in reality, we also face a lot of challenges in terms of every individual is a leader, right? So, but every individual, if you have to really convert them as a leader, that means best practices to be doing and a lot of other aspects, we call them so-called as leader. So if we have to convert an individual to so-called a leader, there are a lot of challenges. And what are those challenges? And how do we overcome that? And how do we transform such individuals to become great leaders? And that's what, in fact, we are discussing today. But that is where I would also invite our panel discussion leader, Mr. David Selvaraj, who is from Benicia Facility Management Services, who is the partner there, and who would like to ask on behalf of all our members certain key questions to make it more interactive to our guest, Mr. Gowri Shenbagaraman. So welcome, Mr. David Selvaraj.
Good evening, everyone. Transformational leadership is a very interesting subject, and we have the right person in our midst this evening. Thank you, Mr. Gowri, for being with us, and we are glad to have you over.
Thank you, sir.
Now, yes, sir. Before we start our discussion interactions, I have a couple of questions. With your permission, I'd like to ask them, sir.
Sure. Can call me as Gowri. That's fine.
Okay, great.
I'm not that old. So.
If everyone thinks I'm old because of my gray hair. Mr. Gowri, what are the qualities a leader must possess while transforming people into great leaders? I mean, as leaders, we all want to encourage others to become leaders, right? People who report to us are team members, are department people. So what do you think the qualities a leader must possess to transform people into great leaders?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to, answer this based on my experiences from leaders with whom I have closely worked, business leaders, not necessarily HR leaders, both within my team and what I have seen happen in my other teams. I think the number one thing is how do we make people working around us to be comfortable working with us? As we move from a pretty hierarchical setup to a more informal setup. It's not that I'm against hierarchy. Hierarchy has its own plus. With the change in Gen Z to Gen Z, I think what is more important is how do we make people feel comfortable, and why it is required is that is where exchange of ideas happen. I mean, today we're talking about inclusivity. Of course, inclusivity has a very broader context, but even within a homogeneous group, if you're not going to make your team members comfortable, I mean, it could be your subordinates, if I can use that word, then naturally they're not going to sort of share things, and that becomes a very big impediment to the way you will perform or your team will perform. The second could be like we all need to be. It's a very cliche term, being a great listener. I think it's related to making when you're a good listener, you make others feel comfortable working with you. That has a lot of value attached to it. Whether you are open to different perspectives. Again, I'm saying it's not just hearing, but listening to people. The next is trust. By trust, what do I mean? Not to try to micromanage people. If you know somebody is right for the job, then we should give them the space and we should trust them. Let me also give a small example. Here I was, during my stint in Africa, working with my CEO, that's we're completing the performance appraisal process for the year, and then we need to send that deck to our head office in Bombay. Maybe I was 5 years into the role. When into the role, maybe I was 3-4 months. I had also moved in new to that location, so I just said him, so we have done, and should we send them? So he said, yeah, just go ahead and send them. Then I said, don't you want to, maybe scrutinize it once? I mean, is it that's fine? No, that's not the way we work. We need to keep moving on. It was bits, even sometimes, even with the HR heads with whom I worked, we always do a multiple, the PMS is multiple rounds of checks, it goes. So that's a bit of surprise for me. But then, I mean, when I look back, a few months down the line on that incident, what it taught me is, I'm sure he didn't have a blind faith on me, but then he had a little amount of trust, in the sense like, you have been in the system for some time, you have done this job 3-4 years. So which means I need to give him that space. There's no point, even if I had to really check an Excel sheet which you have prepared, then if he has to do that, then I'm not the right guy in that role. So that was the biggest learning. It did for me, in the sense, the kind of boost it gives to your self-confidence, that your leader is trusting you, that will make you do wonders. So, I mean, trust is an easier thing said, but we need to practice it day in and day out. That has delta, huge multiplier effect on the delivery of your team. The other thing I would say is how do we challenge the team? I mean, one is moving out of the comfort zone. Another is also to challenging them to aim higher. Because this comfort zone not necessarily comes when somebody spends maybe 5 years in a role or 10 years in a job. It's not like that. People easily get into a comfort zone. Even it could be the colleagues with whom they'll work with, or the role which they'll handle. So that also makes them to aim lesser. I mean, again, I've got an example. We had a new CEO in my very earliest roles. He came, and then he called one of the department meetings. They're always sort of meeting the business plan targets, because the market was so conducive. They were continuously meeting the targets. Then he said, we used to talk about cost of production. Then he said, can we look at a negative COP? I mean, nobody in the room had ever heard about a negative. How can cost of production be negative? I mean, is it like you don't spend anything, still you produce? So then he went and explained, no, there's a lot of byproducts, comes out of the process. So why don't you find more markets to sell that? So you don't spend additional cost to, because the byproduct is part of the process. So that gets adjusted against your cost of production. So this is like, and with whom I know him for the last 15-16 years. So multiple examples I can quote. So, your ability to pick the developmental areas of each individual and push them to work towards that. I think that's the big skill. I think maybe we'll keep learning that skill as we work. But we should definitely push our teams to move out of the comfort zone and aim really higher. The other point I would say is talking about how do we, as leaders, how do we pierce through the hierarchy? I mean, the first point is talked about hierarchy. So hierarchy is needed for organizations to run. But when a certain issue happens, where you see there's something doesn't move for a bit of time, how do we are able to slice through the hierarchy and then reach out? Again, it again boils down to the very first point we saw, that are we making people comfortable? When you slice through the hierarchy, are people comfortable listening to you? Are people, and are you listening to them? Because it's very difficult. Like, you are the CHRO or you are the plant head. How many times you will get in the shop floor and listen to them in their actual sense? I would say it's a very contentious trait, in the sense some style of leadership believe, no, I mean, I will make my direct clients accountable. It's their responsibility to get, their team accountable. As another way of looking at it is like your ability to slice through the hierarchy and then go and resolve issues. So as I said, there's no one right way of doing it. I mean, that's up to the individual style.
True.
The last point, I mean, I had taken notes. The last point I would say is it should always have the back of our team. I think that is something. There are multiple examples, anecdotes from Abdul Kalam to Vikram Sarabhai. There's so many anecdotes are there, but even in our own career, many times it has happened. So it's always important that we have the backs of our team. That makes, even ordinary people do extraordinary things. These are some of the learnings from my experience, which I thought I will share to the team for your question, Mr. David.
Thank you so much. Actually, wonderfully brought out, making people comfortable, being a great listener and trust, and slicing through the hierarchy and backing up your team. Really wonderfully brought out, and I'm sure you're doing a success transfer for all your experiences in the current position. That's wonderful. Very good. Very good.
Welcome to Leaders Connect, an online leadership community where leaders create more leaders. This is a CSR initiative by Bija Training and organized by the Mask Leadership. I'm Go Prabhakaran. I work for My Big Break. Leaders Connect is started with the specific objective of creating 1,000+ leaders, all the working professionals and business people who are facing real-time challenges in leading self, leading others, and in leading their businesses. Share them on our website, themaskleadership.com. We read through all the challenges, filter them, and every week on Wednesday, we invite a top management leader from the corporate world and look forward to solutions for our real-time challenges on leadership. That's our way to leaders create more leaders.